So today I'm going to talk about innovative biogeochemical cover system for zero emissions at landfills. First of all, I want to thank Professor Shi and Professor Tang for initiating and organizing these webinars. And I want to thank you all for finding time to attend this webinar. And before I get started, this work, the presentation I'm giving, this research is done by graduate students. I want to thank them. And the research is funded by U.S. National Science Foundation and our industrial partner. So before I get started, I want to just give you a brief overview to what kind of research that I do. I work in two labs, Sustainable Engineering Research Lab and also Geotechnical and Geoenvironmental Engineering Lab. So I do a lot of research on environmental remediation of soil, sediments, groundwater, and stormwater, mainly dealing with in situ technologies for mixed and emerging contaminants, heterogeneous and low permeable subsurface environments. I worked with a lot of different technologies to match with the subsurface geologic conditions, hydrogeological conditions, and contamination conditions, and integrating the technologies. And then recently I've been working more on green and sustainable and resilient remediation technologies. I also work on waste management and landfill engineering, beneficial use of waste, biodegradation, mechanical stability. Recently, I've been working on sustainable systems, landfill liners, cover systems, biocovers, bioreactor landfills, and so forth. And then I also work on life cycle assessment and sustainable and resilient engineering. My work is mostly on developing analytics, quantifying the sustainability and resiliency. Once you have that kind of framework that can be applied to evaluate different materials, infrastructure systems, waste management systems. I worked mostly on environmental remediation systems too. So that has been my area of interest. And my core background is geotechnical engineering. I work on all aspects of geotechnical engineering too. But a lot of my research is in geoenvironmental engineering and sustainable engineering. That's what is covered in the first two and the third one. So over the years, whatever we have done, we summarized all our work into 4 books and a bunch of papers. And anybody who's interested can look at my website, get all the information about our work. So for today's presentation, I know we have very little time, so I may not be giving a lot of technical details. I just want to give an overview of this ongoing project. So I just wanted to kind of everyone to know what we are doing recently. This is one of our ongoing projects. Just wanted to give you an overview of it. And if anybody is interested in a lot of technical details, I can provide them later. So first I want to briefly outline the research problem and explain this new biogeochemical cover system that we have been working on and show you some of our research methodology and results and make closing comments. So this research is all about waste management. As every one of you know, solid waste management is a big issue everywhere, all around the world, all parts of the world. This solid waste is increasing every year. We generate a lot of waste every year, as you see from this one. And looking into the future, we are going to be generating large amount of waste, looking at this one, 3.4 billion tons per year. So imagine that. It's going to be a huge problem going into the future, and we really need some solutions. Currently, what we are doing is kind of sad. For example, look at the open dump. This is all blue. So of course, in the US, we don't have open dumps. So South Asia has 75%, the Middle East, Europe, Europe has a very little. Africa, you see this, Latin America. So there's a lot of open dumping still taking place, which should not be allowed these days, right? And then other one is the landfilling. You see the red one. So that's all landfilling here. In the US, we do 54% landfilling, in Asia and in Latin America and East Asia. So you can see this open dumping and landfilling, are the major ways to manage the solid waste right now, right? But this problem needs to be realized in a broader way. We need to look at integrated waste management, where we collect and sort, do the material recycling. We do biological treatment, thermal treatment, and landfilling. So we really need to integrate all of these to address these waste management issues. So no one thing can really take care of our waste management problems. So we need to combine all of these things depending upon the sustainability considerations. So the one which I am working on these days is the landfills. Landfills are going to be an integral part of any waste management strategy. And design of landfill engineering is well established. In the US, we have been designing these landfills for over 30 years, and they're all working very good. So we have a baseliner, sideliner, leachate collection system. We fill in the waste and we put the final cover. So the design methodologies for all these landfill components is very well established. So generally, I use my book has 4 parts, and third part is on landfills and impoundments. And that part has these different chapters that deal with the landfills. And I like these chapters, the sequence of chapters, because that's how one has to consider and design. And in fact, all these chapters are syllabus, form the syllabus for my course on design of landfills and impoundments. So even though we are doing well in terms of the landfill design and construction, monitoring, and all those things, we have one problem. The problem is the fugitive emissions. All the landfills have gas collection system. So you have an extraction well and you extract the gases. But remember, all the extraction wells have a definitive radius of influence. And a lot of times these landfill gas extraction wells are not spaced closely enough to extract all the gas from the landfill. So any area that is not outside the radius of influence, that tends to come to the cover, and from the cover it tries to escape. That's the problem. So these fugitive emission gases, or in general, these landfills are considered third largest source of methane emissions in the US. You have CO2, you have H2S, you have non-methane organic compounds that could be air pollutants, and also have a greenhouse gas potential. So think about in the US, we have engineered landfills, we still have this fugitive emissions problem. You think about the situation where you have dump sites and where you don't have engineered landfills. So this problem is going to be much severe. So what we came up recently is a cover called Biogeochemical Cover System. In this one, basically we have you have a waste at the bottom. On the top of the waste, this is the final cover. And we have a layer of biochar amended soil, and we have a layer of slag, steel slag, and then layer of cover soil. So that's what we are basically considering as a biogeochemical cover system. So what is happening in biochar amended soil is, because of the methanotrophs, you have methane is oxidizing into carbon dioxide. So that carbon dioxide tries to come to the slag layer, and then you have H2S from the degraded waste, and the CO2 from the degraded waste comes to the slag layer. And in the slag layer, this CO2 and H2S get sequestered as shown by these equations. So what is biochar amended soil? A lot of you in China know what is biochar is, and other parts of the world are catching up. Basically, you take any organic mass and do the pyrolysis, and you get a bio-oil or gaseous fuels. That's biofuel, you get it, and then you get a biochar. Biochar is considered as a waste product. And you can get this one depending upon the feedstock, depending upon the pyrolysis conditions. So you can get different types of biochars, as I'm showing an example. This biochar is kind of a unique material because it has a high surface area, internal porosity, high water and nutrient retention, high resistance to biotic degradation, ability to absorb gases, and it has enhanced microbial colonization. So the environment for enhanced microbial colonization. So as a result of all these unique properties, biochar has been used for many different applications, more commonly for carbon sequestration in agricultural field. And in the recent past, this has been used for environmental remediation. And we started using this one some years ago for covers. Now, I want to mention that all biochars are not the same. One thing that you have to really worry about these biochars is the contamination levels. So you have to look at, what is the amount of PAHs that you have, what is the amount of metals that you have. Some of these biochars have high amounts of PAHs and metals, even in the leachable form, and you cannot really use for any engineering applications where you could have a threat of environmental pollution spreading. So you can definitely find biochars that could really, are clean and favorable for application. So that's the first thing that you have to do is screen the biochars, find out which one are useful. So that's the thing that we have done in the past. And if you found that kind of a biochar, you can evaluate, what is the benefit of adding it to the soil to enhance the methane oxidation. So soil, there could be some methane oxidation by the soil with the methanotropes that are present, but the activity is generally less. But if you add biochar, you're going to increase this methanotropic activity, and you're going to increase the methane oxidation. So to evaluate how much benefit we are going to get by biochar amendment, we did batch tests, we did column tests. So just to give you a glimpse of what these results look like. So you can see here, what I'm showing is, with time, how much is the methane oxidation is happening. So this dark, circle is the soil. That's like a baseline. If you add 2% biochar, you can see for a while you don't see that much difference because that's the acclimation time for methanotropes. After that, you can see, things take off with the biochar amendment. So 2% biochar here, and you can see other one is the 10% biochar. If you don't want to have this lag time, you could basically activate right in the beginning the biochar, and you will avoid that activation. Actually, you can get much more methane oxidation starting right off, as soon as you install. So this shows that biochar, as compared to the soil alone, can have a significant enhanced methane oxidation. So then, the batch tests are not going to represent the field conditions, so you really have to do the column experiments. We did almost near field scale column experiments. It's a large scale column experiments. So just I want to show you quick, typical results. So in case of soil, you see these methane profiles are, concentrations are high. They don't they remain unchanged. But if you look at, just say 10% biochar, you can see the concentrations are low, and then basically this shows that there's a lot of methane oxidation that is happening. The concentrations are, reducing as a result of that. So there's a lot of data on this one. I'm not going to, explain that one, but we also do the microbial characterization. Just, getting that methane oxidation data is not enough. So we want to know, what microbes are really contributing to this methane oxidation. So we have done, testing under different conditions to evaluate what are the microbial population, basically, methanotropes, how much of them present and what types of methanotropes are present in various conditions. And then with that, we could come up with a good explanation. So after doing the batch tests, large scale column experiments, next thing you have to do is the field testing. So in case of field testing, we went to the field and we did the different test plots. So you have a standard soil cover here, 2% biochar amended soil cover here. We also tested just placing the biochar layer without amendment. We wanted to see if just placing a small layer of biochar would affect, and then 10% biochar amended soil. So there are a lot of details on how we did this testing. Basically, we went to the field and found an area where there was an intermediate cover, and then we made this excavated to make these test plots, and then we placed this gravel layer as a gas distribution layer, and then we placed on the top of it is biochar or biochar amended soil, and we sampled it, before and after, and we had a gas sampling force, and then we also had static chambers. So periodically we go to the site and measure the flux and concentrations in that. And also we collect the gas samples at different depths and then look at those composition also. So without going into a lot of details, you can see in case of soil control, you see the concentrations are higher, but in case of this test pads that had biochar, you can see significantly less methane. Obviously, when you are doing out in the field, you need to realize that your influx is not constant, like just like what you see in the lab. So you have to consider that variability when you are dealing with field testing. So these are selected publications on biochar amended soil. You can look at it. Now, after the biochar, slag is the important one that is sequestering CO2 and H2S. So we used BOF steel slag because this is available in plenty, and they have the problem of disposing these ones. So these are the finer steel slag materials. They don't have any applications right now. The stockpiles of these ones are lying. They are ready to give it for free. So you should note the properties. You should look at hydraulic conductivity. It's almost typical to like a drainage layer. And the pH is the one thing that is, should be kept in mind. It's very high, and that could affect, that should be considered, because underlying this steel slag layer, you have a, biochar amended soil where biological activity is happening. So you don't want to have the pH conditions, high pH conditions in the slag to be affecting the underlying layer. So other thing that you need to look at, slag in the slag characterization is what are the minerals contributing to the calcium, what are the minerals that are present, contributing to the iron. So characterizing those things right in the beginning can help you assess whether this particular slag is useful or not. So similar to methane, oxidation evaluation, we looked at CO2, H2S sequestration evaluation based on the batch test, based on series of small column tests, and basically we found out that we tested the different types of steel BOF slags, different moisture contents, and it does show that the extent of carbon sequestration depends upon the quality of your slag. So, but they all have an extended CO2 sequestration, and also it shows that we need to have at least some minimal moisture content for this mineralization to happen. And we looked at column tests. We could find out how much is uptaken and where do you get the breakthrough, and you can kind of assess the mechanisms, when the minerals are available for providing the calcium. So those kind of things can be analyzed in nicer detail once based on these results. So again, H2S also we did this one column experiments, and shows that the size of the slag can make a lot of difference. So the finer the slag, higher the uptake. So which is kind of good, because we are actually dealing with a finer slag that needs to be used, because that does not have many resources. So these are all the publications that deal with slag. If you are interested in knowing more technical details, you can find this information. So it's not about just the slag layer. It's not just the biochar amended soil layer, but the combination of those two, what we are interested in biogeochemical cover. So in biochar amended soil, we want to have a biological activity taking place. In slag, we want a chemistry to be taking place. So it's a biogeochemical, reactions that are happening. So to evaluate these combinations, we looked at these 4 different profiles. So first one is just the soil. Second one as a 10% biochar here, and you have a slag. And here 5% activated biochar here, and you have a slag. And the last one, 10% activated biochar. And we looked at here a case where, hey, can we add slag mixed with sand and use it? So that's kind of for a few other reasons, so we tested that one. So with these 4 columns, you can assess, again, the gas is input from the bottom, and you are evaluating the gas concentrations along the profile, and you are looking at the effluent concentrations also. So you get like total picture of what's happening to the gas that you have inlet. So we are basically simulating, inputting the simulated gas, landfill gas, where we have methane and CO2 and H2S. So these are the results that you get for standard soil cover, and this is the second column where we used the biochar, 10% biochar, and the steel slag here. You can see that this blue is the CO2. So you can see CO2 is sequestered quite a bit. There is some release of CH4, But look at this one where we have 5% activated biochar and steel slag. You can see, the CH4 is completely oxidized, and CO2 is completely sequestered. So basically, for a long period of time, we don't see any gases coming up. I mean, of course, H2S is also sequestered. So this combination is basically giving us, zero emissions. And where we amended the slag with some sand, that's not as good as, these conditions that we see here. And again, in these conditions also, you need to look at, methanotrophic bacteria in the biochar amended soil, because we are using the slag, and what is the effect of any kind of infiltration from the slag layer into the biochar layer. And we found out that, that does not have much effect. Slag does not have much effect. So I know I don't have much time, so just wanted to give you the glimpse of, research that is ongoing. This work is still ongoing. And I will be happy to discuss with anybody that have any questions. So based on the work that we have done so far, we are confident that this new biogeochemical cover system can be effective to mitigate methane, CO2, and H2S. And basically, you are achieving zero emissions. And it's a practical, and we also tested under different pH conditions, different moisture conditions, and different temperature conditions. So it's resilient to different climatic conditions. And what you are doing is using the waste materials, so biochar and BOF slag, which are, they're stockpiled or they need to be disposed. So we're making a good use of the waste materials and conserving the natural resources. And whether it is economical to use or sustainable to use, that really depends upon the location where you want to use and where these materials are available. So it's not always, don't take it for granted that these are going to be economical and sustainable in any general situation. It depends upon where these materials are available and where your application is. And as I mentioned, we are still working on it. We are developing the practical design guidelines for people to use this one in practice. So with that one, I am happy to answer any questions that you have. If the time is not there right now, so this is my contact information. Please feel free to send me email, ask me questions that you have, or you can look at my website for my previous presentations. So with that one, I want to end my presentation, and thank you very much for everyone attending these webinars and listening to my presentation. Thank you so much.
Okay, thank you very much, Professor Reddy.